Monday, the 11th of April, 2022. In this evening's show, we once again discuss a team like Blackpool taking the lion's share of the points against high and mighty opponents. The latest being Blackburn Rovers at Ewood Park on Saturday. And I'm John Aspinall, and this is the Seaside's podcast, match reaction show. Blackburn Rovers 1, Blackpool 1.
It's already changed the world. Small town from the north of England with a great tradition.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Seaside's podcast, match reaction show, coming on a Monday evening. We were a bit busy yesterday, so Monday it is. Greetings from Turkey from our international globe-trotting presenter, Mr. Tim Fielding. Evening, Tim. Probably doing something very middle class, Nick, like visiting some ruins or a mosque.
Victorian folly. No, I'll be sat with a large G&T on the veranda, I think.
Mitch, what's Tim doing?
Tim will be reading a book about the history of the Ottoman Empire whilst gazing out across some kind of, I don't know.
Water.
Some sort of, what was that?
Some sort of water or like an inlet or something.
Yeah, I was going to say that they have like amphitheatres in Turkey, like they do in Greece. He'll have been on a trip to visit an amphitheatre and found it very fascinating and be reading a book, looking across the water.
I think he'll have what's that very light cotton called? The shirt.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Linen.
Yeah,
linen.
Yeah.
He'll have a linen shirt on, bright coloured linen pants, sort of quite loose, boat shoes with no socks on.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say like a safari suit then.
He'd look a bit like Christopher Biggins, would he, in a safari suit?
No, I don't.
There we go. Vintage. There he is. Both on the agenda tomorrow. Side amphitheatre tomorrow, G&T in hand. Tim, we know you too well. Well, Mitch is on a beer. I'm on a beer, so it's not sophisticated. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, anyway. Evening, Steve. Evening, two Steve H's. One of you's going to have to change your name. Sean's here. Why are you not in the studio, Sean? It does beg
Just
that
thinking
question.
the same thing.
Keyboard warrior, Sean. You've got the StreamYard URL on WhatsApp. Click it. Come on in. The water's lovely. Evening, Mike. Right. Blackburn Rovers 1. Blackpool 1. First thing we're going to discuss is this, which was the lineup. So, first item, Mitch, on the Seaside 7 this evening is surprise changes in the lineup, which was as follows: Maxwell, Gabriel, Ekpiteta, Thornley, Husband, Dougal, Connolly, Hamilton, Kirk, Lavery and Medine. So, Keshi and, surprisingly, Josh Bowler making way. What's in Critch's head when he picks this one?
Well, I don't know. I mean, my theory is that he's given up trying to pick the team, and he is literally just putting him in a bingo chooser or something. And going, right, it's this team this week, lads. Because I think I just looked at this and went, "What the fuck is that?" Which it doesn't even feel like a bad thing, because we had that sort of laugh the other week where, me and Joe had been exchanging texts before the game going, "Oh, we're going to get battered. This is going to be terrible. What's he thinking?" And then I can't remember what game that was, but it was one of our best performances. And then against Forest, everybody and his dog went, "Oh, fantastic team. He's got it right there. Spot on." And we lose 4-1. So I don't know. I mean, the one that I was surprised with above anything was that CJ kept his place and that Bowler lost his. And that was after we'd sort of advocated that maybe it might be a good idea to drop Josh Bowler, but I don't think we'd advocated that we should drop Josh Bowler and keep, say, CJ in the team. So that was the one that stood out. I think everything else, I was kind of pleased to see Connolly in midfield. Kirk will come on to. I think he's a player that offers offers something in albeit in an unspectacular way. He definitely offers something. I was quite pleased to see him. I was quite surprised to see Thornley come back in as well for Keogh, but whether that's about fitness, whether Keogh has got 2 games in a short space of time and him come back from injury was that. But the CJ one really surprised me.
Nick, over to you. Critch obviously is closing the stable door after the horses bolted with the inclusion of Callum Connolly in midfield. Should have been there for the Preston game.
Well, yeah.
As was vaunted on the Seasiders podcast preview show.
Hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? You can't help but wonder, would it have been a different result? I certainly think we'd have looked a little bit stronger. And same as Mitch, I was glad to see him back there in the middle. As for the rest of it, you can't pick a Critchley team, can you? You never know what's going to happen. I didn't mind Kurt coming in. I think if you look at where we are in the league now, he's perhaps going to maybe experiment a bit more and give some of these players a bit of game time, which I don't really mind. When I saw the team, I'd had a few, to be fair, so kind of looking at it through one eye on my phone in the pub. Good to see Gabriel back in. I really like him. So overall, I didn't really mind. The main thing for me was whoever started that we just got a reaction after what happened against Preston. I just wanted to see just a bit more from them, which thankfully we got.
Mitch, just let's look at a few listeners' comments on the lineup. Steve Hutchins said, I'm surprised to see CJ start too. I can't help wonder why Beasley doesn't get a late look in. Well, Steve, Mitch isn't really the kind of man you want to be fielding this question at, as it means just hear me out, Mitch. As it means getting rid of you-know-who, and that ain't going to happen on your watch, is it?
Well, no, it's not. But what I would like to say is I put on record that how much I appreciated the fact that Beasley reminded me of John Murphy. And if there's one player that probably would challenge Big Gaz in terms of my love for not very mobile front men who've worn tangerine, it would be Big John Murphy. And I am intrigued to see Beasley because Gaz isn't going to go on forever, and I'm going to pin my affection somewhere else. So even I would like to see Beasley, and I think it's intriguing that he's not even making the bench at this stage. And we'll come on to this, I've no doubt. But Gaz looked dead on his feet. I sometimes when people say, "Oh, Medine looks knackered," well, he always looks knackered. He looks knackered in the warm up, but this week he really, really did look like he needed to relax in the kind of luxury spa facilities that Tim's probably relaxing in at the moment to get over the running round for 60 minutes. He looked shattered, and Beasley's not there on the bench again, and I don't really understand that.
David Coleman's just said, if you saw Beasley at Liverpool today, you wouldn't wonder. Does he mean you wouldn't wonder why he's not in the lineup? I don't know if anyone saw. Did anyone see any of that today, that game?
No, I was working.
Yeah,
so we went 3-0 down, I think, in the first half.
Yeah, Sean's just said, I'm less intrigued after today's performance. I guess it wasn't all that much then, by the sounds of that. So the listeners are answering our questions there. Okay, let's move on to our second item. The game's kicked off. Nick, Blackpool have started on the front foot. We've started very well in this game. We've had 2 good chances. The first one, let's talk about CJ's. As I've penned that banner, terrible early miss.
Yeah, obviously done the hard bit, pressing really well, snatched the ball. The Blackburn lad was a little bit hesitant, and CJ was onto it in a flash. And then it's just that composure in the final third where, for me, just look up and square it to Lavery, who can roll it into an empty net, and he kind of just gets caught in 2 minds and ends up feeble shot straight at the keeper. And unfortunately, it is that final third with CJ. I think when he gets through on goal, and whether he's got too much time to think about it, I don't know, but just doesn't seem to make the right decision. And it was poor, really, considering how well he'd done to snatch the ball in the first place and create himself the chance.
Mitch, at this level, championship level, when a player has all the time in the world like CJ had, I mean, he had a vast. It was like an African savannah with him the only lion on there. The amount of space he has to miss for me, it's criminal to not put that away. Either he could have gone either post, he could have gone inside far post, but as Nick said, just an easy square pass and it's a certain goal.
We sort of missed it twice because it when he'd initially charged the player down and robbed the ball, the keeper was way out of position. So if he'd taken it early, there was a shot on there, but he didn't, and he kind of dithered, set himself, went again, and then well, Nick's already described what he didn't do. There was something Sean said in our chat. I wasn't sure if it was a Patreon one or our presenter one, but he said CJ makes my head hurt, and I think that kind of sums up for me how I felt about CJ all afternoon. In that, massive credit for how hard he worked in closing down, and massive credit for some of the runs he went on. But then what he did at the end was just atrocious on several occasions. There was one, I'm skipping ahead, but there was one where he burst through. He made himself a brilliant bit of space, burst through, and then toe poked it about 15 yards ahead of himself, and sort of was quite lucky to get a corner out of it, where really he should have been bearing down on goal and putting a lot of pressure on. There you go, Mark Webster. That's a very good point, and it's a good job we've already started coding stackable players, isn't it, for that instance?
People, you need to have watched the previous preview show on the customized team picker that I've built. So we're going to have an Easter egg in the game. If you stack Beasley and Medina on top of each other, there's going to be a transformer kind of effect. We're going to have like twice the player in it, but I think you need to have seen it, don't you?
That's quite a good pod. That's quite a good close season pod. Was kind of like, how would you genetically modify the squad to like combine them together to actually make an effective championship winning team?
Yeah. So, Nick, obviously we've missed them. We've started the game very well, haven't we? We've looked like the better team, but the Blackburn keeper, can't remember his name, it's just a long punt upfield, sailed straight over Jordan Thornley's head. He's completely misjudged it. Sam Gallagher's just brought it down, and I thought he'd taken a heavy touch after his initial touch, and he's taken it far too wide, and he's done really well to improvise and just lift it over the advancing Maxwell. But there's a lot of not finger pointing. People have said maybe Maxwell was a bit slow off his line. Thornley's been out of position. What was your take on
I did wonder at the time. I think with Maxwell, he started to come, and then it's, as the guys brought it under control and he's in on goal, he's had second thoughts and backpedaled a bit. I wouldn't particularly point the finger of blame at Maxwell. I think Thornley, this is his Achilles heel a bit, isn't it? The ball over the top. It's not the first time that this has happened quite a bit in League One. It's just that split second where I don't know if he misjudges it or gets caught a bit flat-footed, and then that's it. In that second, it's too late, and the guy's in. To be fair, it was a decent finish, but he is susceptible to that ball over the top. Unfortunately, it's a shame because if he could eradicate that from his game, then I think he's quite a decent player and he does well for us, but it does happen from time to time, unfortunately.
A cutting comment in the Facebook was they need to get rid of Maxwell. A bit harsh, that column. Sean Boothie says the blame lies with Thornley for me. Mitch, Penny, for your thoughts. Where does the finger of blame point for you?
I think ultimately the blame does lie with Thornley. I did think Maxwell was, Nick used the word hesitant. I likened it to a bit like, when you're in the supermarket and there's two identical products and they're about 2p difference and you spend ages kind of dithering over which one you're going to buy. It was a kind of a bit like that. He just got caught between the two things, and it was kind of like, do one of them. And I thought he was slow off his line, but that's kind of blaming someone for not clearing up a situation that a much bigger mistake has made. And to be fair, it was one of those weird goals where it just happened suddenly. Like I wasn't thinking, oh, yeah, we're under pressure. It was just like, shit, they're through. And if that's my reaction in the stand, then I would imagine the keeper might get caught a bit flat-footed because he's not expecting that routine long ball to be, he's not expecting to be racing off his line in the next 5 seconds, just as I'd only just registered what was happening when the ball was in the back of the net. So it's Thornley that if we want to single out one person for blame, definitely.
Yeah, it was a strange one. I think I just wasn't paying attention on the game for a split second, as you do sometimes, and just looked across and just looked up and it happened. So yeah,
same for me. I think I'd turn around and say something to Tim, look back, and all of a sudden he's through, and you were like, where's that come from? It wasn't until I saw it again on the telly, realised that it was the launch from the keeper and it had gone over Thornley's head.
Do we think it was a tactic by the Blackburn keeper, because they were kind of high-fiving, celebrating him afterwards? So do you think it was a special teams play that they've done there?
Well, I think he was probably aiming for him. I don't think it was just an aimless hoof up the field. Whether they've specifically looked at it and said this is where we're susceptible, I don't know. But I think he did mean it.
Okay, let's move on then to the Shane Lavery penalty incident, which was about 5-10 minutes later. Now, obviously, I was with Eddie at this game, and when I bring him, we go right to the front. So it was right down the far end. So I was just appealing randomly because everyone else was like, yeah, it's a pen. What's a pen? So were any of you two in the top tier, or what was your vantage points like? And I've not had a chance to look at the replays yet. So Mitch, give us your thoughts on it.
At the ground, I thought it was a penalty. Having seen the replay, somebody's put on Twitter a kind of slowed down looping version. It might have been Joe. He does stuff like that, but it looked like a penalty. And what seemed to define it for me, the angle on the TV replay is such where you can't. It's from the side that the tackle goes in, so you can't really see the contact properly. But what you see is the way that the player goes in, slides in. Lavery goes down, gets up again, and the ball hasn't gone anywhere. The ball's still kind of at Lavery's feet because the player's not played the ball, but he's clearly made contact with Lavery, and that's what it looked like at the ground. And it was, sometimes they can be deceptive, but it absolutely looked like one.
We don't seem to get penalties, do we, Nick? We've had very few this season, and Tim's just said in the chat there, the ref seems to give them everything. A real homer, not a good player. Right? It's very well. Yeah, see what we've done there, Tim. Very clever. Yeah, we should never get pens, do we?
We don't know, and I'd like to say I remember it, but I don't. And I don't know if that's because we'd been on the lash since 10:30, or I'd gone for a Waz. I think it might have been the latter. Yeah, but no, we don't. And like Tim says, I just thought anything that was 50-50, he was giving to them. There's one point where, every away fan gave a massive ironic cheer when we got a decision, which I think goes to show just how much we weren't getting. Maybe if it's at the other end in front of us, it perhaps influences him a bit. But yeah, we don't.
Did anyone else think that literally every time the Blackburn fans thought there was a foul and it wasn't given, they just go berserk after every single decision that they didn't get? It was, I don't know, are they kind of entitled there or something? I think they are. I think they've got a sense of entitlement at that club.
The corners were ridiculous. There was about 3 or 4 just blatantly wrong decisions for corners, either not giving us a corner or giving them a corner. They were just unbelievable.
Gallagher was laughing at one. He was actually laughing to himself that we didn't get a corner. It was quite funny watching him laughing.
I sort of went through the stages of anger, and after quite early on, I just decided I wasn't really I was over it because he was just so comical that there was no point getting angry at him. Yeah.
So we should have had a pen. One thing that's just popped in my head, Nick, after what you've said. The whole experience at Blackburn, obviously a lot better than at Preston. There wasn't any argy-bargy with their fans. I thought it was quite a pleasant day out, but we were very kind of packed in very tightly and like sardines. Again, it's not great for fan experience when it's a nightmare to get piss, it's a nightmare to get food, it's a nightmare to get beer. I don't know why they do it, cram everyone into one tiny area, you know, just let people spread out a bit, because there was kids that couldn't see. And do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a massive away end as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, people should have the right to sit down in these games. And I was sat on Joe's level, and I kind of feel for people who sit at the front, because it's a nightmare. There's always people standing in front of you, and not everyone wants to stand, do they, at games?
No, they don't. And it tends to be nobody really sits, or a lot of people don't sit in their own seat. So you inevitably get people who want to sit in their own seat. I mean, I was stood next to Tim in the kind of walkway in the end, and there was quite a lot of people doing that because, you know, seats were taken and stuff. And a lot of people do want to stand up as well as people who want to sit down. So, yeah, but that other side was...
let people, you know, my point is, if they let just people spread out a bit, everyone can do their own thing, can't they?
Yeah. Although you maybe lose a bit in atmosphere then. But, yeah, and like you say, compared to press, you know, there was a good following, not far short of 4,000. It was all good-natured and quite well stewarded and stuff. The police who we came across were all pretty relaxed and friendly, really. You know, there was no bother. But, you know, then again, there's not really any need with Blackburn, is there? I know it's a Lancashire derby, but there's more history with, obviously, Preston and Bolton and Burnley than Blackburn for me.
But to some extent, I wonder how much that over-policing that we see, how much that creates in and of itself an atmosphere and a mood and a vibe and a sense of this is a battle, this is a war. Like you could just feel it at Deepdale. It's just the ridiculous over policing of everything. And even I, who was, you know, I am the last person to be stood on, you know, I'm the last person to be trying to get over the barriers to get to other teams' fans and what have you. But even I ended up having not exactly squaring off with the copper, but kind of arguing quite vociferously with the copper and behaving in a way that obviously they didn't like, because it was just, you getting pushed around, you getting it's a crap experience. And then you turn up to Blackburn and it was just so simple, it was so easy, and there was just that kind of, I don't know, like you behave like you're treated, if that makes sense. And the vibe, it was a decent vibe, it was a good atmosphere, you know, and I wonder if those two things go hand in hand.
Freezing as well, as ever. But hey ho, Stoke's always colder, as is Oldham. Okay, so the first half, not a lot to write home about, was it? The rest of it, so it's kind of
there was the fantastic run that CJ did that Kelly picked out earlier, where his legs went everywhere and he looked like Phoebe off Friends, which was just a thing of wonder.
Oh, wait, where is it?
I think it was Kelly. It was a thing of wonder, where he that was it. It was just incredible. I think Gabriel won it at right back. So I poked it forward ahead of CJ, and he went the length of the pitch. And I don't think I've ever seen him like he ran like that on iFollow when we were all locked out with COVID. And I think since we've been back in the ground, he's always been feeling his hamstring, not quite at full tilt. Or maybe when he has had better games this year, they've been at away games that I've not been at. And I've never seen him really open up like that. And it was incredible. There's bits of him going everywhere. You thought bits of him were going to fall off.
My sister will like that. She likes Friends. Yeah, I think I'd missed that because I'd gone for a hot dog. Oh, yeah, I didn't see it.
I mean, he didn't do anything with it at the end, obviously. But
Naturally. Okay, on to the second half. We've just put Big Marv score to score in front of a great support. A very hacky goal, Nick. Just a melee almost.
Yeah, a bit of pinball, wasn't it? So corner came over. Big Gaz kind of headed it up in the air. And I think it was Thornley and Marv both went for it. And it kind of landed in amongst 3 or 4 Blackburn players who all seemed to either think one of the others was going to kick it. And then eventually one of them took a swing at it. Came back to Marv and he poked it into the corner. and cute delirium in the away end.
I do like he's sponsored by Marvin's. That's a bar. That's a bar, Mitch. In there, it's a bar in Polton called Marvin's.
Yeah, it's very good.
It was well deserved, though.
It was, and we'd come out in the second half really well. We'd come out sort of. I must admit, at half time I'd thought, well, it's better than Preston, but I'm not sure how much better it is than Preston. And I had that feeling where I'd sort of thought, well, it's only 1-0. You know, you think, well, we could have conceded more in that half. And I had quite a good feeling that it's only 1-0. We've got away with a couple in that half. And we came out fantastically second half. We really, really pinned them back straight away. And it sort of shows that we can play like that. We can play on the front foot. We can be aggressive, and we can get in teams' faces and put pressure on and have a sustained spell of pressure. And it was really nice to see that after whatever it was, 5-6 minutes of attacking, we scored a goal. And that's lovely. We hadn't bothered with tippy-tappy sideways by waiting to see something happen. We'd gone and got in the faces, and we got a goal. And it was a lovely, ugly, scruffy goal, which I really like.
Steve H. Added a Smith, FFS. Did you, Nick?
No, although we were joking. I think at one point there was, like I say, I was still with Tim and his mate Steve, and Steve said, "You need to go to the loo and we'll score." Although, to be fair, this season, I think it's more doing in Aspinall. I think you've missed more than you. I've missed one for a long time now. Yeah. I think you've missed quite a few this season, haven't you?
Swansea away being a key one. Yeah, I've missed a few. I've definitely got your trophy there.
Yeah.
We need to start scientifically recording when everybody visits the facilities in the match on some kind of spreadsheet, and then looking at that against time scored and seeing literally who can wee the most goals.
Could be a new stat for Sean and Connor. XP, XPG, expected piss goals. It mean more than some of the ones they come out with.
Yeah, he's replied.
Fair shout.
Expected Smiths. So yeah, far superior performance in the second half anyway against Preston. We were on the front foot. We looked the more likely team to score. We've made our first changes on when it was 71 minutes. Talk about Josh Bowler and Keshi Anderson coming on for Charlie Kirk and CJ Hamilton. I thought, Nick, right, here we go. Bring on the big guns. Was it that much of an impact for you?
Well, Bowler had that chance, didn't he? I think it was Keshi who fed him, and it kind of looped up and hit the post, didn't it? I don't mind seeing those two come on. Bowler's been quiet the last few games, but when he's on the pitch, there's always a chance something can happen. And again, Keshi, he does create stuff. Kirk, I thought some of his set piece delivery was decent, which is quite unique for one of our players, because
it's a very low bar to get over, though, isn't it?
Well, it is. Yeah, getting it past the first man is all you need to do, really. But we don't do it though, do we? So it is something a bit different, which seems daft, really, with a team of professional footballers, and there's only one of them who can really deliver anything like a decent corner from time to time. But yeah, I didn't mind those subs. I was happy to see them come on.
But I think the other thing Kirk does is, I don't think he's spectacular. I don't think he's a player that gets you off the edge of your seat that much. But he did work hard going up and down the line, and Husband didn't look exposed in the way that he has looked with CJ in front of him. Husband generally looks like a fairly unspectacular but solid left back, and not to bring stats in it too much. What was mad was I had a look at the stats after the game, and Kirk's got, I think we've had 9 key passes in the game, and Kirk's got 6 of them. And he has obviously got an eye for a pass, and he's a good technical player. And he's odd because he's playing out on the left, but he doesn't really play like a winger particularly. He seems to join in with the midfield more. And I was going to ask this really, is like, he's not that spectacular, but it's almost like he's worth playing him because we were actually vaguely dangerous at corners and free kicks. And without playing him, there's a whole side of our game that's just not there. With Dougal, Dougal looks like he's wearing his school shoes to take them. You know, when you used to play football at lunch at school and you had your school shoes on and the ball had just sort of bounced. Your mum had always bought them a size too big for you to grow into, so that you had no control of the football. And that's, every time Dougal stacks up to fake a free kick, I just think, oh, what a waste that we haven't got anybody to do this. I think Kirk added that danger.
I agree, yeah. And like you say, it is part of the game, isn't it? And prior to him, you'd get a free kick or a corner, and you're not thinking, oh, there's a chance of scoring here. You just, well, it's going to be up the other end in a minute, probably, with the other team on the attack. That's what it had become like from our set pieces. There was just no threat. So it is something a bit different, isn't it?
And very quickly, similar with Gabriel on throw-ins, we actually had somebody who could throw the ball more than 5 yards and somebody that could put the ball within the general area of where Gary Medine or Marvin would be on a corner or a free kick, which added a hell of a lot of threat.
Yeah.
Just as an aside, Nick Salthouse, guys, can I please publicise my bus for Friday to West Brom from South Shore? No, you can't, Nick. Oh, I've just done it. Yeah, Salty's running the coach from South Shore, so don't know. How can they contact you, Salty? Leave details and I guess on Facebook.
He's on Twitter as well, I think.
Is he? Yeah. Callum Connolly, Mitch, final number 6 on our Seaside 7. I've put Connolly shot an all-round performance. I thought he was fabulous. Not technically fabulous, but I liked his all action in your face, 100% effort performance in midfield.
I absolutely loved it. And I wanted to ask really, was I think it was your phrase was the Leggy League One donkey that we all.
I corrected that.
I disagreed with.
Former Leggy League One donkey.
Nick separate himself from that. And then I think at one point
just let me say this. Let me say this quickly.
After 2 games, John.
Do you know who scored for Bolton at the weekend?
MJ Williams.
Oh.
And may I also add, Mitch, you can go in a minute. It was his first goal of the season. First. Well, Mitch, where you go?
I'm pleased for him with his lovely hair. Yeah, no, I was going to ask genuinely. I wasn't having a dig. We'd called him the Leggy League One donkey. And at one point, we relegated him to being a League Two donkey. So generally, at what level are we now putting him? I mean, he looks like an absolute Championship midfielder to me now, which I was one of the most vocal people on here going, well, we're not going to progress with Connolly in the midfield. What a ridiculous thing, Connolly in the midfield. I as much as anybody, mocked the idea that Connolly could be a functional midfield for us. And I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And I just love watching him play. Yeah, he's not technically that great, but he's not that bad technically. He's great in the air. He's very committed in the tackle. He carries the ball. He's actually got a decent bit of vision. He seems to have... He does the defensive work very well, but he also seems to have an eye to get us moving. He adds tempo to the game, which is what I really, really like. I think, Stewart, is technically a much better footballer, and he's a bit of a Rolls Royce of a player, but sometimes I think Stewart can play sort of almost within his comfort zone in front of the back four and sort of look very stylish. But Connolly really adds tempo. He's constantly trying to move us on and push us on. And that shot was kind of typical of it. There wasn't really a lot on. And he just cracked it and it moved in the air. Keeper chucks his hands up. Yeah. Yeah. Keeper sort of chucks his hands up and it comes out. And it was, in a sense, a shame that we hadn't got either Lavery or Yates on, because Gaz lumbers after it, and Gaz by that point was barely moving. He looked like he literally needed oiling. Gaz kind of lumbered after it and got nowhere near it. But you have to think that maybe Lavery or Yates still and they might have got onto that rebound. And I thought it was terrific. I really did. He was everything. I know he couldn't play in midfield against Preston, but he was everything that we weren't against Preston. He was in their faces. He was aggressive. He was forward thinking.
Which is why he should have played him in midfield against Preston, and which is why we all said that. But
yeah,
hey ho, Mitch. Just going back to your car analogy, if Kev Stewart say Rolls Royce, what car is Callum Connolly? Or listeners, viewers, drop us in the comments. What car is Callum Connolly? Have a think about it. Let's move on
Ford
to number 7.
Mondeo estate, good all rounder. But I think it goes to show that, you know, you've got to give any player a chance to settle and establish themselves in the side. And, you know, having had that kind of run of games, we're seeing what a decent player he is. And yeah, they are, as Kelly said, reliable Ford Mondeo. And he fully deserves his place, you know, and hopefully he'll continue to improve. Bit of a goal threat now as well. You know, scored against Forest and could have scored again on Saturday. So long may it continue.
Good shout, David, actually. Connolly, good solid future captain, IMO.
Was he captain at Fleetwood?
He was on loan.
Yeah.
Was he not England under... He was one of the age group England captains, was he not? Like, not under 21s, obviously, but one of the earlier age groups. I'm sure he was. Well, I'm not sure, actually. It's one of those things where you say he's sure, but you're not actually sure. I think if he's a reliable Ford Mondeo, you're fine. But I think he's got a little bit of something. I think he's got a spoiler or some kind of...
GLX or something.
Yeah, he's one of them. Yeah.
Oh, we've got a few more coming in. Mark Style says he's a Volvo. Yeah. James Roma, Honda Civic.
I don't know if he is a Volvo, because I don't think a Volvo would have had that 90 plus 6 minute punch up that he had with the well, it wasn't quite a punch up, but he got involved in a brilliant bit of handbags with one of their players, didn't he? And I'm not sure a Volvo would do that. I think a Volvo would be too sensible. The Volvo would be sort of walking away, going, "Calm down, lads. No, don't get a yellow card. Don't get a yellow card." But Connolly wasn't asked about the yellow card he was going to get. And that's another thing which I think makes you warm to him, isn't it? That
Definitely.
He's never shy of getting stuck into a scrap.
Oh, fans love that. Darren Harvey, an Allegro, I think he means, an Austin Allegro. Fun fact, I learnt to drive in an Austin Allegro on the factories off, what's it called? Where the airport is.
You're showing your age there, John.
Yeah, Austin Allegro. Brown one as well. Andy
Good
Porter
shout from Andy Porter.
Scania truck. Nothing spectacular. We're going forever without breaking down.
I always see Gaz Medine as something like a Scania truck, sort of quite lumbering, slow moving, and yeah.
I think we've stumbled upon a great feature here. Idea for program.
This week, what would the players be if they were flavours of yogurt? Text in.
What car would this player be? Right, I'm going to do this. Pretty funny. Right, let's move on to our final item. Got 2 banners for this. The main banner item is called Teams Like Blackpool. I'll just bring this ticker in also to explain what this means to those who may or may have not heard Tony Mowbray the radio afterwards. He said, as the manager of Blackburn Rovers, we should be beating Blackpool. With total respect, they came out of League One and have done fantastically well. They're a really hard-working, honest team who understand how they play and are a handful to play against. And he tries to dig himself out of this, and huge credit to them at the end of it. What do you think of that, gents?
Well, I think aside from the team like Blackpool, if he hadn't said that bit, you'd say it's a fair assessment and pretty complimentary. But it's just it's every week, isn't it, or every other week? You know, we had it when we were in the Premier League, didn't we? It's Blackpool, so we should be beating them. And I don't know whether Critch could show it the players, and it's probably motivation for them. Let them get on with it. We'll just keep doing our thing, and that's what 4 points we've taken off them in 2 games. So we're doing something right, aren't we? Against another team with a much bigger budget, players who cost more than our entire squad, and we've matched them. So there you go, Tony. Stick that one in your pipe.
I've never understood this thing that you see it a lot. You hear it on stuff like 606, where you get people ringing up and they go, I just want to say, Robbie, I think you're disrespectful in your comments towards my team, and they get really het up about what other people think about their team. And I just couldn't give a shit. It's not some kind, we're not, you don't get any points for what the opposition manager says about you. You don't get any points for what people write about you in the paper. I don't care. I don't care about Blackburn. I don't care about any other side. I don't care about Coventry or Fulham or Liverpool or Man City or whatever. I quite like on Twitter. I've got a little, I don't do it very often, but I quite like winding up Liverpool fans on Twitter because they're so sensitive about the way that their club is perceived. Because quite a few of my mates are Liverpool fans, and they're so sensitive about, you've got to understand that we're not like Man City. You've got to give us credit for what we've done. I'm like, why do you give a shit about what I think about your football team? Why do you care? So they can all say teams like Blackpool for the next however many years, I couldn't give a toss. Let's just keep winning games of football, and then them underestimating us all the way to the Champions League final when, I don't know, Carlo Ancelotti at AC Milan or somebody can say, we should have beaten a team like Blackpool.
Just to close this segment of the show, absolutely MB. How could anyone be motivated by a Tony Mowbray team talk? He's an extremely dour individual, Nick, isn't he?
He is indeed.
Yes. He reminds me a lot of Gary Bowyer. He was very dull and dour, wasn't he? He was involved at Blackburn as well, wasn't he, Bowyer?
He was. He managed it.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. Must be something. It must be something to do with teams like Blackburn.
Indeed.
Right. So 1-1, 4 points off Blackburn. Thanks a lot, Blackburn. Well done, lads. Let's rate them. Player ratings. Nick, you can go first. Not manager rating. Wrong one. Mouse. Player ratings. You can start, Nick, with Chris Maxwell back in between the sticks from the start.
Yeah, I have to say I do feel a bit more confident with Grimmy in there. Just a bit more of a presence, I think, on crosses and corners, whereas Maxwell, I don't know, did look a little bit hesitant at times, but he's not long back in after a long layoff, is he? So I will give him a 7 overall.
That's fair. Jordan Gabriel, great to see him back in the team. Mitch, a real outlet throughout the afternoon for me.
Yeah, I thought he was absolutely terrific. I thought everything that I said about Callum Connolly goes for Gabriel as well. What a pleasure to watch that lad play football. He just he cares so much, and there was also the risk-taking present in his game. He got forward. He beat players on a couple of occasions. There was some really lovely work. And I've said it before, I think, but he kind of defies physics where he pops up on the pitch. He seems to be all over the place, and he gives us the same as Connolly. He gives us tempo. These are Sean Mack facts that I asked him to look up, but I think he's 6th in the division for dribbles from fullback, which obviously then gives us more aggression. And he's 7th for, I can't remember what this is without looking on my phone, but he's 7th for, it might be distance of ball carried or something. But anyway, the point is he's really high up in the division for sort of his attacking fullback work. I thought he was absolutely excellent. I'm going to give him 9.
Sean Mack facts. We need that on the soundboard, I think, don't we?
If only we had a potential soundboard for that sort of thing.
Note to self, record it afterwards and put it on the soundboard for our next pod. Right, Big Marv, Nick, in the goals yet again.
He was.
How was
He
the
had
rest of his game?
Very good, as he always is. He's a colossus for us, and Saturday was no different for me. And obviously, he went up the other end and scored an absolute beauty. So I'm going to go an 8+ for Marv.
Yeah. Mr. Consistency, isn't he? Jordan Thornley was Mr. Consistency after his return from Oxford, but he's petered off a bit last couple of games, hasn't he, Mitch?
Well, I actually thought he played really well, apart from going to sleep for one long ball. It's the difficulty of being a footballer, to use the cliche, at this level, is that he's probably played very well for 94 minutes and 49 seconds, but gone to sleep for that 1 second, and it's cost us a goal. So I don't want to be too harsh on him. I don't want to sort of go, 4 because we scored from his mistake. I'm going to go 7+ for him.
I think that's fair. You just remember these.
Yeah, you do.
It's the recency bias, isn't it? You just remember the mistakes that you do, mate. Yeah. He was good, though, apart from that. Jimmy Husband, Nick. Fine performance again from Jimmy.
Yeah. Solid as ever.
Solid, that's the word.
Yeah, and it's a solid 7+ for me.
Kenny Dougal, Mitch. Interesting. A bit better than Preston. Can't get any worse, though.
Yeah, he was.
Mitchell McConnell 3 is an American.
That's my Google Home. That's my Google Home responding to whatever you.
Ask her what she thinks of Kenny Dougal.
Well, she was telling us about
some kind of
Alison McDougall, who was a politician or something. There we go. Where were we? Kenny Dougal. He was definitely more comfortable with Connolly next to him than Robson. Yeah, I'll go 7+ again for him. I thought he was better, but not at his best.
Do you think he looks a bit tired?
I do.
Yeah, I do.
I think him and Medine, they've played a lot of football, haven't they?
And I can't remember if I've said this before, but I think Dougal's carried a weight of having to be the best midfielder when really he's a player that shouldn't have to be the best midfielder. He's not, that's not his role. And there we go. I think he gets a lot of stick for not being a player that he isn't, if that makes sense. I don't.
Well, in the Preston game, he didn't have any options, did he? He was being pressed, no out balls, no one showing. So yeah,
no.
He's had a great season in the majority. Right, Callum Connolly, Nick. I think it's you, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought he had a very good game after as we've just talked about a few minutes ago. Possibly one of the contenders for man of the match. Great work rate, good on the ball, and could have scored. So I'm going to go 8+.
FPRS system in full effect this evening. As the great man downs his third G&T. Reading Homer's Odyssey. Homer Simpson might have even scored CJ Hamilton's chance early doors. Mitch, what's your score for him?
It's a hard one in that I don't want to slate him I do want to slate him, but I don't want to punish him too much. It's like he's really going to be that arsed about his Seasiders podcast score here. I'm overthinking this. What I mean is, he made a lot of opportunities that he then missed, and other players could have not had those opportunities and then not missed. And you'd go, oh, well, he had a good solid game and they were right. But Hamilton, he didn't have a good solid game, but he featured, he was there. And that's a step forward from what we were saying about him the other week, where he'd just gone completely missing. So I am going to give CJ a
6.
No, I'm going to give him a 7.
Yeah, I'd agree with 7.
Oh.
Yeah, I agree with 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7. 7.
That's why I don't give the scores. I just click buttons. Next button I'm clicking is Charlie Kirk. Have I even got a Charlie Kirk? Yeah, I have. Yeah. Captain Kirk? Question mark. See what I did there?
I think it's probably a 7 again as well. Like we've said, he can deliver set pieces, which is a massive bonus in our team. Like Mitch said, he's not a spectacular kind of out and out winger, knock it past his man, raw pace, get his head up and whip a cross in. But he is kind of quietly effective as he goes through the game with his set pieces. And, you know, if you look at the times he's played, which hasn't been a lot, he has, I think he had a couple of assists as well, hasn't he, previously? So
Yes.
he has got something about him without being spectacular. So I will go 7.
He got a song as well, which was quite surprised.
He did.
Yeah. I always think he looks a bit sad.
Yeah.
Just looks a bit worried and a bit sad. And I kind of want to tell him it's all right. Is John frozen?
Yes, I thought he was listening intently to us, but he
No.
appears to have frozen.
Right. We carry on. Who's next?
Let's wing it. Who would be next? Lavery?
Yeah. And is it me, Lavery? It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lavery, I would go for. Kind of, it almost fits into what I was saying about what CJ wasn't, in that he had the really good run for the penalty. He worked really, really hard, but you didn't notice him too much, but he certainly didn't have a poor game. We definitely look better with 2 up front. We definitely look better for having him on the pitch. I'll go for an 8- for Lavery.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He's always got, even if he's not getting the chances, he puts a hell of a shift in, doesn't he? And I think you missed that if he doesn't play.
Yeah.
Medine next up. You should have probably had Medine.
Right.
Not a lot fell for him, but it's one of these with Medine. Is it? Like I said before, I think he probably needs a rest, but can we afford to rest him at the moment? You know, from what people have said today, Beasley didn't look up to much, and it's one of those. I think when he doesn't play, you realize you would miss him, and you realize, you know, what you're missing for when he does. And he got nothing off the ref as well. You know, there was times when he was kind of getting pulled here, there, and everywhere, and the ref was just having none of it. And he kind of had involvement in the goal as well, didn't he? Because it was his header that went to Marv that then resulted in the goal. So I'm going to go 7 for Gary Medine.
And Mowbray also did pick him out and say he bullied their defence, which was...
Yeah, and he does. Yeah, even if he's not, you know, even if he's not having many chances, if you ask the Blackburn defenders, did you like playing against him, you're guaranteed he'd say, no, it was bloody hard work. So, you know, he always puts a decent shift in.
I also loved in the handbags that I've noticed this, whenever it goes off on the pitch, Gaz is always over there peacekeeping like butter wouldn't melt and sort of pulling people away, because he's a lover, not a fighter these days. That's the thing.
Sorry,
John
guys.
has returned.
Yeah. On Windows, you have the blue screen of death. On the Mac, you have the green screen of death. That just happened then. So, where are we up to? Gary Medine, have we done everyone?
I think we have,
I think we have, yeah.
Okay. Okay, manager rating then. Nick. Critchley's finest hour.
Well, it's a bit
an improvement on what we saw at Preston, but couldn't have got any worse though, could it?
Well, no, that's true. And there's quite a bit of debate on a view from the tower and also in the chat about the Keogh substitution, whether people saw it as a positive or a negative.
Okay, let's quickly discuss that then. I was a bit worried, to be honest, when I saw it happen. Did we switch to 5 at the back?
Well, that was the thing. I was raging when it happened. I was, what are you doing? And the guy in front of me was not very complimentary about Critchley's managerial ability, and seemed to take this as proof that Critch doesn't know what he's doing, and all around me, it's the vibes just changed, and I was raging at it. But actually, it didn't really pan out like I thought it would, because I thought we were going 5 at the back, but it seemed like we went to kind of 3 at the back, and then 3 at the back, and then, well, how does it quite work? 3 at the back, 5 in midfield, or 4 in midfield, and then Keshi and Bowler pushing right up front. And it was actually more. It worked out as a much more aggressive change than I thought it was, if that made sense.
Go on, Nick. Go on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say I thought it was going to be defensively a defensive sub, but it didn't. Like you say, Mitch said, it didn't really turn out like that. And it's one of those, isn't it? If Blackburn, if we hadn't done that sub and Blackburn get a winner, we're all saying, well, he could have put a sub on, and it's one of those, isn't it? It can go either way. But I didn't mind it, and I thought it was like Sean says there, quite a positive move in the end.
So, Nick, what was your score for Crips then?
I will go 8.
You concur, Mitch?
Yeah, I concur with that. He does very well, considering that he picks the team by writing them all down on a napkin, throwing it up, and getting one of those air conditioner things to just, and then getting Mike Garrity to pick up the first 11 names, then go out there and play. So I think he does very well to motivate them in that circumstance.
I quite like the bingo one, where like at the Phoenix Club, where they have the bingo and those glass boxes where it's all whirring around.
Number 14, Gary Medine.
Ethan Robson, number 7. Whatever it is.
Yes, whiz it.
I'm sure that's what must have to do at Preston. That was so weird, wasn't it? The Ethan Robson. Right, just before we go, man of the match, we've not done that yet. I think there's a few contenders, isn't there, Nick, for this one? You're thinking cap on and give us your man of the match.
There's a few contenders.
There's Connolly. There's
Connolly, Gabriel,
yeah.
Marv.
I'll you two have a think. I'll go first, then, and I'll go Connolly, because everything we've said, nasty things, not nasty. We've said he's not up to the job earlier on in the season, but he's made me eat humble pie, and I think he's won leaps and bounds over the last sort of 10 games. So Callum Connolly for me, and I love the fact, as Mitch said earlier, he gets stuck in. He's not afraid to grab someone by the shirt and, cause a bit of aggro, which I always like in games. So Callum, hard to say, Callum Connolly for me.
I just wanted to point out that, I would take total ownership of that opinion as well. I'm not trying to point my finger at you going, you made the League One donkey now. I think we all thought that, and I think, well, Nick didn't, but I think we all gave him some stick. Sean certainly did. I did. Well, Sean didn't necessarily give him stick, but Sean certainly was of the opinion that he wasn't a midfielder. I think Tim felt that. I think Joe felt that. I think we all questioned him, and it's lovely to see him shove it down our throats. So I'll do Connolly as well. I was going to give it Gabriel, but you've swayed me, John, with your emotional logic that the man deserves the man of the match, just to show that we are big enough to hold our hands up and give credit where credit's due. I'd say it was pretty split between the two, so I'll go Connolly too.
Yeah, it's a hat trick for Connolly, man of the match for me. I thought he had a very good game, but it's very, very close to Gabriel as well. I thought was excellent. Yeah.
Okay, gents, then we'll call it a night now. On just nearly on an hour. Just before you go, everybody, if you're watching this on YouTube, you know the drill. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. Preview show coming from West Brom on Friday, isn't it? As I was saying to Nick in the green room, the season's kind of petered out now, isn't it? So you might want to watch, you might not want to. It's up to you. So tune in on, I think, Thursday or Wednesday for the preview show with Connor and the lads. So everybody, thanks for coming on this evening. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Matt. I'll call you your real name for once. How about that? Thanks, Matt.
I don't respond to that anymore.
Yeah. Matt, your tea's ready. Blank look. What? Anyway. Thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading. And up the pool.
Up the pool.